It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, March 24th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi in the media, the Sunday message word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is a wonderful and awesome Monday once again. We're starting a new week, and yes, it is the last week of March. Yes, we're just, like, I guess you can say we're marching along into this new year. We're going to be heading into the fourth month, so I hope that you guys have been enjoying this March. Of course, we had March 16th just about a week ago, right? Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to us whenever you can, and if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. All right. So I'm just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is what? It's about learning. Learn. If you do not know, it is suffering and death. Yes, that is a title. Learn. If you do not know, it is suffering and death. So it is a wonderful and awesome Monday. For me, been a busy weekend because I got to have some downtime, like just to really take a break, relax. I took a drive down to Seoul, and in Seoul, I was there for about 2 nights, and that's kind of what I did. I relaxed. I slept a lot. I ate a lot. I went to get a massage. I went to karaoke. Like I just did stuff that is de-stressing, right? Just to get myself back to, get my mind and my heart back into a normal mindset. But I am very grateful that I do get this time to recover, like to kind of just decompress. And it's everything just to refresh, get back to my normal state. And I would say one of the best things is definitely sleep and food. Like those two things are like awesome. Everything else is just a bonus. I went to this this Chinese massage place, and they're like Chinese Koreans. They speak Chinese, but they also speak Korean. But I would have to say there was this old woman. Like I had a grandma who was doing my my massage, and it was awesome. Like I was so shocked by how much power and strength this grandma had. The only thing I thought was kind of weird was, when you get your muscles, like when they kind of press your muscles and stuff, I couldn't tell. Like I can hear the cracking, like click, click, click. And like, I couldn't tell if it was my muscles or if it was the grandmother. Like I couldn't tell the difference, but it was just refreshing. It was good either way. It was in this, kind of, it looked kind of shady, but it wasn't. Like the way that we were treated, very professional, everything else. But this grandmother was awesome. So it was worth it for me. I was really thankful and grateful that I was able to get that massage too. But I got that massage, so I'm a real my muscles are kind of refreshed. I went to it is interesting. In Korea, they call it honkono, which, it's like an acronym. So hon is like 혼자, which means alone or by yourself. Ko means coin, and no means 노래방, which basically means going to the coin karaoke alone, right? And I told you guys about this before. You pay per song. It's like 500 won, which is like 35 cents American per song. I'm in there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes in and out. Like that's what I did. So it was just awesome to blow some steam. Eating some good food. Man, I tried this one food called the melting cheese, and it was so weird. Like there's this cup on top of my burger, and if you lift the cup, this melted cheese this melted cheese just like goes all over your burger. And I thought it was good, but I would still say it doesn't really break the traditional burger where you can eat it with your hands. But I had a bunch of different things, and this was, after all the stuff we did for 316, it was strictly mental and physical recovery, and of course, it's not really doing anything for my spirit, but indirectly it does, because if you're really, really tired or if you're aching, it's hard to pray. Right? So getting myself refreshed physically and mentally also does, in a sense, help my spiritual life too. So I did that for 2 days. I stayed at a hotel, and the hotel, yeah, I just booked myself a place so that I can just relax. But it was kind of cool because it was a hotel on top of a convention center or something like that. It was a hotel on top of like some business, right? So like the first 35 floors are all like business offices, and then from the 36th floor to the 65th floor was all a hotel. And I was just like, whoa. And I was on the 58th floor. It was just really, really nice to relax and enjoy that time too. So I was just looking at that, thinking to myself, like, yeah, this is something that it's good to do this every once in a while. It wasn't expensive either. So it was just nice to be in a place like that and, just kind of take a break. I was able to meet up with some members from America, so that was kind of cool too. And it was a good break time. It was a very, very good break time, and I'm looking forward to get back to where I should be. And I'm also hoping. I actually have Monday off too, so today is my last day off before I get back into work. So I am, yeah. I do have this extra time, and I'm thinking to myself, what should I do? And I don't know if this sounds weird, but sometimes don't you guys just want to stay in bed? Have you ever had that? Like where you can just kind of relax, stay in bed, not, you don't have to go anywhere. Just get up to go eat or something along that line. Like that's something that I am looking forward to, is just resting. And I think that's something that a lot of times we have sleep debt. And even when I was over there, I was like sleeping at like 2 something a.m., which I don't think was very healthy for me. Definitely not healthy for me. But for some reason, I had this, I had this, I just have too many thoughts sometimes. And here's something that I find very, very interesting. Okay. So, one of the things that I was a little bit, perturbed by, okay. And it's not something, I'm going to tell you guys this is not something that is a fault, right? This is something that is purely culture that I just need to get used to. I am living in a foreign country, and I cannot expect the entire country to follow my culture the way that I think. I think that's unfair. And I think that's like one of the most immature things to do. Right. And that's why I also think one thing I also think is the one thing that I think that gets a lot of people into trouble is when they go to a foreign country and they'll like look at the providence there, and they'll just start like saying that, oh, there's a problem here, there's a problem there, there's a problem here kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And all they're trying to do is fix providence. And what I see there is that's where the biggest problems are, is if, like, for instance, let me give you an example, and this is what I've seen happen in the past, which has caused problems too. Is someone from a country that has a more established providence, they'll come to another country that's smaller, and they'll just start trying to change everything. Hey, you're not supposed to do this. Hey, you're not supposed to do this. Hey, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? And it's something where we have to really, really understand and watch out and be very, very careful about, because the condition of the country is very different when it's in the pioneering stage, when it's in the growth stage, and when it's in the maturity stage. They're very different. And to expect a smaller country to be the same as a big country, I think that is that's the wrong expectations, and it's not the right way to do it. Right? Because if you were going to do it the right way, then you need to understand that country, the culture, and do things in such a way that will actually it's like what Paul says, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right? And we have to be those that really understand this well. And that's why I would say that countries like America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, maybe, and even Europe, it's a melting pot where there's a lot of, it's very, very diverse, and there's a lot of different people that live in the same country. And I would say, I've talked about this before, is having a different, like people from different countries living in the same country, but like different cultures and such, it's a hard thing. There's going to be a lot of things that don't make sense. It is. Like, I'm telling you right now, I am a Westerner because I have a Western mind living in Korea, and I have a hard time. And think about that, guys. I'm Korean descent. My parents are Korean. And yet, and I, I am used to the Korean style and the Korean culture, right? And yet even me, right? Even I have a difficult time like getting used to the Korean culture. I do. And that's something that we have to understand and realize really well is, I sit there and sometimes I don't, here's the thing, because I've lived in Korea before for 5 years, because I've lived here for 5 years, I do understand the culture a lot better, right? However, it doesn't stop the feeling. You know what I mean? For instance, Korea or Asian countries are a little bit more top down. It's more about seniority, authority, the title makes a difference, and the way people treat people of authority is much different than the Western countries. And remember, this is culture. This is not about right or wrong. So please don't write in the comment section, oh, it should never be like that. It's a cultural thing. So it's not something that you can just change. Culture is not something you just change anytime you want, right? It's something that we have to look at. We have to understand really, really well. And we have to, since I am in Korea, I have to adjust to Korean culture and the Korean style and the Korean way. That's just what it is because I am here in this country. And even for me, being from a Korean background and descent, I still have trouble being in Korea, right? And it's very interesting because when you look at it from the flip side, if you imagine, if someone from another country, has a bigger province nation, comes into a country like Canada, America, Australia, Europe, or these smaller countries, that's kind of the trap that we get ourselves into, thinking that they should be more like us. And the answer is no, they shouldn't. Right? It doesn't mean just because you're in a more advanced province country, it doesn't mean that a smaller country should be doing the exact same thing. It doesn't. Right? There's going to be the basic laws, and the basic laws that we all know is, yes, there's going to be pre-dawn. Like for instance, if you have pre-dawn, like pre-dawn is it's a basic faith. So that's not something where you're going to be like, well, my country culturally doesn't wake up. No. That's completely different, right? But it's more of the details, right? It's a little bit different. When it's bigger and smaller, the way it runs and what's allowed and what's not allowed is very, very different. And that's why we have to be those that are very careful. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now is, I'm not going to say just be careful when you go to another country and learn to adapt. I'm also going to tell you is you also have to be careful when someone from another country comes and tries to start changing everything, right? Changing like, oh no, in my country we do it like this, and in my country we do it like this, and in my country we do it like, no. That's something that you also have to be careful about. You do, because it's different. It is different. The culture's different. The way things are done are completely different. So it's like I find that that's where a lot of the problems happen is people, like someone from another country will come, they'll say that, oh, you shouldn't do that. And they'll even say things bad about leaders in that country. And for me, that's a huge red flag. Like gigantic red flag. And for me, I would be like, no, that's like for me, I'm just like, no, that's this person does not know. They don't know properly. And that's why I would say you have to be careful on both sides. It's not just you going to another country and you have to learn the culture, learn the ways, right? Understand how Sunseam takes care of that country, right? there is a reason why now a lot of the countries, sometimes seems like the people of that country should be leading that country. There is a big reason for it. And we shouldn't be sitting there thinking to ourselves like, oh, I have to listen to this country because that's, they have a bigger and better, or whatever you want to call a bigger providence nation there. It doesn't work that way. And that's something that we have to be careful on both sides, right? We do. And Sunseem really, really cares about the foreign countries. And Sunseem is very careful when he hears about those types of things too. And when the reports get out, it's kind of like, yeah, we have to understand we have to understand it at from a different perspective and level. And that's why even for me, the reason I brought this up is because I'm living in Korea and I'm struggling with it. I am. And sometimes I will get a little bit self-centered and I'll be like, why aren't they like this? But ultimately, I'm like, it's just me. I already know that there's a cultural gap. I already know that there's remember guys, I speak some Korean, right? I know that there's a gap in language. I know that there's a gap in culture, and there's no way that I should dictate how that country should do things. No way. Right? And that's why we have to be very, very careful, right? We have to be careful in how we deal with other countries and how we understand the other countries. And we have to be also understand that when someone else comes to our country, we cannot be so what's that word? Enamored and like, whoa, this person knows this person from this country. Wow, this is a big No, that's just kind of one of those tricks, I think, where it's just like we want to do things in a safe manner, which means this. Now, what I'm saying is there's always in most cases, you're not going to be dealing with anything that's harmful in most cases. However, there are going to be those few where there's going to be harmful cases, right? And it's better to always be safe than to go down a road you shouldn't go, right? And it's just me learning and understanding from my role, it shouldn't happen like this. Oh, this shouldn't have happened from this. Oh, it shouldn't have been done in this way. Do you know what I mean? And we learn as we go. We have to understand as we go, and we really have to have that mindset and mentality that we can do things in a better way, right? And a more organized way. Because the smaller the country is, the less that you actually can catch. There's going to be a lot of mavericks out there that are just kind of doing things on their own, or people just come and they'll connect and find someone to talk to them or get someone to counsel them. And that's something that we have to really, really understand well, and know that this is something that we have to get ourselves to realize even more. All right. So it's interesting how this topic comes up, because it's mainly because of my experience that I went through. And it's very, very interesting because I'm like, yeah, that's something that I need to watch out, even though, as I'm living here in this foreign country. And the only thing that is my saving grace is that God has provided me a place where I live on my own. Where I'm so thankful that I live alone, that I'm not bothered. I am living and being able to do the things that I need to do. I'm thankful that God has provided me a car. Remember don't you guys remember 7 months ago when I was I'm so stressed. I don't have a house yet. I don't have a car yet. I don't have the things that I need for me to really be stable. And, it's just like that Friday message. What Sunseem said is, the more that is given to you, the more that you should do. Right? That it should heighten your response. The more that is given, the more that is expected. And I think that's something that I have to look at and understand much, much better too. So I hope that everyone is having an amazing and awesome Monday. I am thankful that I'm in the resting stage. And tomorrow, of course, there'll be Eddie Kwan and Rachel Donkels over there in the AP, and they will be doing tomorrow's podcast. And I'm very, very grateful that they do this every single week without hesitation. But yeah, we're into the 6th year of MSD. Not sure how long this is going to be, but I hope that we can do this together and do it much better too. Either way. So yeah, I am having a wonderful time in this time of rest. And I hope that everyone got back safely to their countries. And in whatever you do, please be safe. Make sure that we get all the things we need to get done. And I hope that we'll really have that mentality and mindset to evangelize and do well, especially for this year. All right, so we are going to go back into the regular programming once again. So if you have any questions or anything else, go ahead. We have Q&A Thursday, but after this, we have the Sunday Message Word Study. So yeah, let's move into the first music break of the day.
Give me the word that can save me from myself. I just want to hear it all. Show me the meaning of my life and fix me. I don't want to lose you and fall. 'Cause you mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. Yeah. I would've lost my life if I didn't know you. Heard the word of life, now I think you're so cool. Every time you speak, I will always come through. I will never leave you cause I'm not a fool. Love you every day, got you on a routine. Cutting out the bad stuff, yeah, I'm too mean. I'ma live this life like I'm in a movie. Got my spirit high, gotta get groovy. You mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. I wouldn't walk away from you if this is what you want. If it's your will, then let it. 'Cause you mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. The only one for me.
All right, so let's get into today's Sunday Message Word Study. And yes, I haven't done this in a long time because we did a lot of those 316 interviews, and I hope you guys really enjoyed that. And I really liked, I think one of the comments that came out is one of the comments that really fulfilled the reason why we did the 316 interviews. And the comment basically said that they weren't able to go to Wolmyeongdong for 316, but listening to the testimonies allowed them to feel like they were actually there and to experience what they couldn't experience when they get to experience what they couldn't experience because they couldn't go physically to Korea. So I think that was one of the actual goals we had, is so that people could testify, so people would know exactly what the feeling was in Korea at that time also. So I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Even if you have any other questions or things that you want to add, go ahead and, if you're looking for other testimonies that you want us to go over, I think you can write them down too so that we can get into that also. Okay, so Sunday message, I like one of the things that I really enjoy when Sunsim kind of breaks things down to the heaven's responsibility and to your responsibility. And one of the first things that people do talk about is, oh, like sometimes Sunsim repeats the same thing over and over again. But I really like how Sunsim kind of breaks things down. And he says, well, like in the past, one of the things that Sunsim does say is, there is a responsibility, like the reason why Sunsim will repeat the same message, and sometimes it's going to be because you don't listen, right? So he has to keep repeating. There's one thing, like that's what parents do. Second, and the other reason I thought that was a little bit more important is, even if the same message comes out, the situation and circumstance is different. Like your situation, your circumstance is different, your level is different. So when you listen to it, it's a different message for you, right? And when I listen to that, it's like, oh, that's so true, because there's a lot of times where you hear a message and there's just no impact. But your situation, your life changes, things happen, you go through difficulties, you go through this and that. And you can listen to the same message and the impact is different. You get an answer and you know what God wants you to do. And I think this is something that we really have to get ourselves to understand is sometimes when we look at a message, it's not about whether, hey, is this something new or not? What is the thing what is the thing that we want more than just a new message? What's more important than a new message is getting the answer. Like, isn't that the number one thing? The number one thing is not to get a new message. The number one thing is to get the answer you need to solve the problem that you're going through at that moment. Isn't that the most important part? And I think that's something that we do have to recognize sometime is it's not about getting a newer message. It's about, do you get the answer you need, right? So we have to be those that realize we're in the most precious time. Why? It's not so much like we're getting, like I said, it's not about getting the new message. It's about, what does God want to tell us right now? And sometimes he wants to give us a message that's the same. Why? Because it's necessary at that time, right? So this week's message is about learning. And if you don't learn, what happens? Well, it's according to the title. It says that if you don't know, it's suffering and it's death. And this is the thing that causes people to go to hell, is they just don't know. And what's even scarier is a message like, even those who are in this history, who are participants in history, right? And even sometimes we don't know, and this is why we suffer. And I think this is one of the things that we have to look at, as in, sometimes we don't need to know everything. We don't. And I think that's something that we have to kind of recognize in our own heads is, well, if we don't, and we're not going to know everything, then how are we supposed to be successful? And the answer is you need to follow the one that God sends. Because even if you don't have the exact answer, if you follow the one that God sends, you're going to be successful, right? And that's the way to do it in the best way, where you may not know and you may not never know the answer. However, if you follow the one that God sends, you will get the answer, right? And it's always, in any situation when you miniaturize or magnify it, it's the people that don't know that suffer. Like this is one part of the message. I was like, oh man, I wish that was me. When he said he said something about like sometimes you have like good fortune and you meet the right person at the right time, and then you live affluently for the rest of your life. You don't get any hardships, right? And I was like, man, I wish that was me. But then he says, but even if you live affluently, it's just physical, right? And what matters is, can you live forever? And, one of the things that Sunstein was talking about is we don't realize how great the opportunity we have. The greatest opportunity a person gains while living in the world is the opportunity to live after meeting God's new history and the Messiah sent by God on the earth. That is the greatest opportunity, right? So we have the opportunity to learn the new words, to learn about God, to learn about ourselves, to learn about life, right? And we need to live, and this is how we should be living. And the reason why people fail to be successful is because they didn't learn. And I think that's something that we have to really have to get ourselves to understand really well too. The second point that I like is, I believe, is talking about time, right? It's really about time. We have to do things. Time is one of the biggest blessings that we'll have, and because of time, one of the reasons why people, even if you're equipped with every single thing that you need, if you don't have enough time, it's hopeless. And the way that Sunseem explained in the past is, even if you're the greatest soccer player in the world with the best and the greatest skills, if there's not enough time on the clock, you can't score the goal, right? And one of the biggest things is time. We need to understand how important time truly is. And we have to be those that do things in the right time, right? So, the first message was about learning, right? Learn the things that we need to do. But the second one is, we have to understand is, we have to do it with the right timing, right? In the right time too. And I think there's two things. One is God's timing, and one is the time, like the amount of time you have left, and one is God's time, right? So there are some things you just got to keep doing until you find God's time, right? When God's time comes, if you're ready, it's going to happen no matter what, right? And then there's the amount of time that is needed. For instance, God will set, you have 40 hours, and however much you prepare in those 40 hours will be what you will accomplish, or what the result would be, because you put in the time and effort. So I do think there's like two different meanings of time, right? The two different meanings of time is, like, even for your youth, in our youth, as we're going to school, that's the time we have to learn. And that's all we have. And until that time, we got to keep learning as much as we can, because when the time comes for us to get into our jobs, we're only going to take what we've actually learned, right? And we have to take that path. And if you only learn 20%, you only get 20 blessing, right? And I also think it's the same thing when it comes to this time that we have. So it seems like, even in this time of tribulation, there's a time this tribulation is going to end. And whatever you've done, you'll be blessed for. So if you do a ton, you will get a ton of blessings. If you do half, you get half blessings. If you only do 10%, you get 10% blessings. We have to take advantage of the opportunity of this time. There's one thing that Sunseem did talk about that I thought was pretty awesome, is when he's talking about the landscaping for the Ambition Masterpiece. And he said, a pyong is, I think it's like 3 square meters, I think, right? And the one interesting thing he said is, in the past, for every pyong of landscaping, it costed like $500. But now it's double that amount, right? And that was the time to do it. And that's the time that you're able to afford it, right? So, and that's something that we have to realize. It comes down to time. And not only about time itself. What was Sunseem saying? Sunseem's like going, well, now we have this time. There's a time you have left, or there's something that has to happen in God's time. But what we need to do, in the message says, learn how to use time. And a lot of people, when Sunseem says this, people waste the golden time. The golden time, the time when you're able to do the most. One thing I found very sad that Sunseem said in a recent message, Sunseem said that, Sunseem said in that message, what did he say? He said that the time where Sunseem was able to run the most powerfully was in his 40s. Think about that. He ran the most in his 40s. And he said, if there was someone like this right now, I would have already appointed them as like a revival speaker. If there was someone like that. And it's pretty sad because here, you got to think about it. The whole reason we ran so hard in our 20s and 30s was so that we would be ready for our 40s when we would be in our peak. Isn't that crazy when you think about that? Like it's almost like sometimes we think to ourselves is like, oh, so 20s and 30s we run with all of our hearts, and then 40s is usually when we retire in some countries and stuff like that too. But something's like, no, you do the best, and you're at your peak in the 40s. And I was like, wow, I'm in my 40s. Of course, I'm in the late stage of my 40s. But something's like, if there was someone already like that, they would already be a revival speaker, right? So what Sansim's saying is use your time well. Sansim's like, I used all my time. I didn't have phones. I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have internet. I used all my time for the most important things, only what was necessary, right? And, we have to be able to do things where Sansim's like going, if you have knowledge, you'll accomplish 10 years worth of work in just one day. Now, how's that possible? And I thought to myself as well, a lot of the times the things that we learn, is an accumulation of knowledge of the past. And they come up with a theory, or they come up with something that you're able to do so much better, right? And when you have this, what happens? You are able, and if you could do that one piece of knowledge you learned that was like based on all the foundation of other things of the past, this is where we realize, oh my gosh, you can do 10 years worth of work in just one day, right? And so it seems like, well, I do 100 and 200 years of learning in the spiritual world. So, and because of what Sansim's done and all the things he's learned, this is why we're able to be in our position right now, right? That's the reason. We have to value time. We need to know how to use time. And when you can do this, you'll even know how to condense time, right? Where it's like the sunstop. You can do 10 hours in 1 hour if you condense time. And that's just kind of like when you look at the Ambition Masterpiece also. So, everything that Sansim has done, even to this point right now, we have to realize he's done it. And he's condensed time so we can get all this stuff right now. Just look at the amount of messages and proverbs and Holy Spirit stories. And look at how much of those things have actually come out. It is ridiculous when you think about it. It really, really is. That the amount Sansim has actually put in. And in the last 46, 47 years, look at what we've done. Look at what Sansim's accomplished with how many countries, how many people. I think it's incredible. And of course, I think we could still do even that much better. I think we can, right? And we need to go out, start making churches, do things in a better way, right? So I think another message that came out is about learning about yourself. Right? Learn about yourself, your body, your heart, your thoughts, your soul, your spirit. And when you learn about yourself and these different parts of yourself, this is when you're able to use it well. And Sansim even says, if you don't know, you will cause yourself to get hurt in car or plane accidents. And, you cause yourself to become disabled and even cause yourself to die. Learn well about how you should use yourself. That is a scary thought. Because you don't know yourself. You didn't learn much about yourself. This is why you're suffering in this way, right? And, it's the same with us living in Providence and the work that we do in Providence. The work must be done divided according to individuality, and everyone must work together without anyone being idle. And we got to learn, be competent, take action, right? And I hope that we will learn, develop, make ourselves according to our individuality. And I think that's the most important. Like sometimes we think to ourselves that I want to try something new, I want to do this or that. But a lot of times you just got to know yourself well, that there is something that you yourself can do, right? Manage your health, right? Don't get sick. Don't do dangerous things, right? Avoid the lives that will harm you, right? Choose good people for evangelism, right? We have to be those that have to learn well, learn about people well, and we have to be those where when you look at people, what's the character something said? Be especially careful about hot temper, fury, and grudges. So learn about and be careful of people who are dishonest. When they change, they will act as your enemy. So I'm trying to figure out to myself is where did this come from? Right? I wonder what actually happened to make Sunseem think about this. Maybe he saw a program or something else. I'm like, wow, that's really strong, right? Sunseem said that whether you're a man, like it doesn't matter men or women, God knows in advance who will change, and He keeps them at a distance. Especially men need to keep their distance from women. Women change frequently. If a woman changes, she becomes like Eve. She comes to belong to Satan. That's crazy, right? And, we can look at it many different ways, but, for guys, we're like, whoa, that's something we do have to think about, right? So I hope, and like Sunseem says, we need to do it until the end. We cannot betray. This is when God ends things, right? And we don't want to cause people harm. And we don't want to be harmed also, just like Saul tried to do to David. So Sunseem's like, be careful of such people. I'm wondering what happened, or what does Sunseem see that is happening? Are we not carefully selecting people? And that's something that I do think we need to think about too, right? So, we need to learn about ourselves. We need to learn about other people too, right? And I think the last point Sunseem gave was like learning about creation, right? Learn about God's creation. And learn about how precious it is. And Sunseem said this message many times when it comes to trees and rocks and people, right? And we have to be those that value what is precious more than money, right? But Sunseem's like, you know what? What does that mean? Like, of course, valuing money, but Sunseem's like, the land is money. Trees are money. Rocks are money. Environment is money. That's why people pay to go into good environments. Like, if I think about just me as someone who goes to cafes, I will pay to be in a good environment, a cafe with a good environment, right? And, I think it's something that we have to really get ourselves to understand really, really well. And that's why Sunseem, he'll buy the best rocks. He'll buy the best trees. And they're worth 5, 6, 7 times more than what he paid for. Some things are 100 or even 1,000,000 times more, right? Just like the camel rock. And he couldn't even bring it in. It had to be found, right? So, Sunseem gave a lot of stories about this, and I hope it's something that we can really understand more and more too. That, like, especially when he's talking about the chairs that he bought in a foreign country, it's, the ignorant will not understand the value, right? And we have to really understand about God's creation well. The final one was about learn about a precious person, right? People didn't know how precious Jesus was, that He would save them from hell, take them to heaven, and they betrayed Him instead, right? And we kind of know where this is going to, like where the connection is for this time period. Realize the precious person, and you'll realize through the Bible. You'll recognize, right, through what we read, the words of God, right? So I hope it's something that we can get ourselves to understand even better. So, yeah. There's lots of things to think about, a lot of things to do, and I hope that we can understand who the precious person is. Check and know how precious someone is, and especially if it's like, hey, check through the Bible, you'll understand even better, right? So the last verse was like 1 Samuel 16:7. Where people look at the outer appearance, but God looks to the heart, and we need to recognize people through their deeds, right? By what they do. Only if you learn about people will you recognize those who are precious, right? There are many precious people out there, right? So it seems like there's nothing that changes constantly like people. interact with people while watching their deeds. Right? It says he's been doing it for 46 years, watching Providence people, and he's seen them changed. He's seen them changed. Right? So he talked about drugs and tattoos too. I'm not sure where that came from, but probably in prison, he's going to see a ton of people doing those things, drinking alcohol, all those things, alcohol, drugs, tattoos. Like he sees them all over there in prison. But I'm wondering what the actual thing where he understood this was, right? Yeah, interesting. Right. But I hope you guys enjoyed the Sunday message. If you have any questions or anything else or any comments you want to give on the Sunday message, go ahead, put in the comments below. All right. So without further ado, before we get into Provi and the media, let's move into the final music break of the day.
From all over the world, by the prayer of the Savior, and took his outstretched hand, and led me here to this place. This miracle is God's love that has lasted 6,000 years. God's will is now fulfilled to live with us eternally. I love you with all my heart, will, and life. May the history of tears turn to joy.
When I feel the Lord by my side, my heart will be stronger. I want to understand more of that. Not hard, I feel from the love. I wish my passionate heart will reach you beyond the sky. Lead me the moment with you, the shining day will never come back. Let's unite ourselves and make it together a heaven on earth of love and of peace. God's will is now fulfilled to live with us eternally. I love you with all my heart, will, and life. Never his story of a tears turn to joy. Leave me the moment with you, the shining day will never come back. Let's unite ourselves and make it together a heaven on earth of love and of peace.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment of Provi in the media. And of course, there's not a lot going on right now as there's a second trial, but there is something that's kind of connected, and I think a lot of us have seen this before, remember that YouTuber that came out, they had like over 200,000 subscribers, and they were the ones like posting up videos talking about how the victims or the accusers were like fake and stuff like that. So what's happening is that guy's being sued, right? So it says the article says that some seems it says a YouTuber was actually a JMS believer. So there's a YouTuber who is from CGM who uploaded a video claiming that victims' claims that they were quasi-raped by CGM president was false. Right, so that's what. Remember, this is what that person was saying on their YouTube channel. And what happened was on the 18th of this month, so probably like a week ago, this man in his 50s was charged violating the act of promotion of information and communications, network utilization, and information protection. Right, so basically, it's defamation. Right, so this YouTuber posted 48 videos on his YouTube channel claiming that the victim statements that they suffered damage from Sunstream from April 3rd to June 11th, 2023 were false, and that the recording files were edited and manipulated, which is kind of odd because it was like the audio was thrown out, so that seems to be kind of true. And the prosecution believes that this YouTuber damaged the reputation of the victims by publicly revealing false information for the purpose of slandering them, right? And this YouTuber also said that NBC produced Netflix's I Am God based on a recording file stitched together from the video, and that it was a fraud against the whole world. And it was reported that the YouTuber or the YouTube channel operated by this member has over 200,000 subscribers. So this case has been assigned to the Daejeon District Court, and trial date has not yet been set. But very interesting, right? It's very, very interesting because of the information that we already have to this point. It doesn't make sense that this is going to trial. But think again, we need to understand that the court system and the laws in different countries are not the same as the laws that we have in ours, right? So that's why it's not something where you sit there like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Is that unfair? And the answer is, it really depends on the law of that country. And that's why it's hard to say anything bad about it until we actually study what this law actually is and why this law was put into place. But it looks like one of our members who has a YouTube channel is going to court, a criminal trial of, like, I guess they'd call it more of like disinformation to slander or defame. Right, it's a defamation lawsuit and caused harm to the victims. So let's see what happens here. That should be quite interesting to see what happens with this. But that's like the latest thing that has come out right now. Not sure exactly. There's no date for it yet. But the YouTuber is being sued by the accusers that he said were basically faking it. And one of the things he did say is that the audio was manipulated and it's edited, which is true from what we know right now, right? And that's why the courts didn't even accept it as evidence. So interestingly, that's what we see. Let's see what happens in the future for this, okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's Provi in the Media. That's all that we found out so far. I hope you guys can keep praying for the trial to continue, to pray for the trial to happen according to God's will. All right. So there it is. That is the end of today's Monday podcast. Hope you guys have an amazing, awesome day. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like